Asset decommissioning can be defined as the act of removing assets such as plant, machinery, and other items that have a distinct value to the organization from service. Asset can be categorized into intangible asset, financial asset, information asset, human asset, and physical asset. Oil and gas was mainly used in the production of hydrocarbons, and the four main phases of oil rig decommissionings are pre-decommissioning, implementation, post-decommissioning, and field review.
Next, the four primary processes of the asset disposal are the pre-decommissioning, decommissioning implementation, post-decommissioning, and field review. In our case study, only the first three stages are discussed. Process flow for downstream facilities. Process flow for upstream facilities. The planning and preparation stage, which includes scoping, assessment and planning, is known as pre-decommissioning. The decommissioning strategy must comply with national laws and international requirements. Scoping of the documents is carried out through data gathering, evaluation of the options developed, and arrangement of schedule for the groundwork. The evaluation covers primary assessments as to meet the condition in the decommissioning execution strategy and the alarm concept for the potential environmental consequences and mitigating measures. From this information, the decommissioning plan and the decommissioning environmental plan or DEP will be developed. In the DEP, the waste management plan WMP needs to be developed and prepared together with a detailed decommissioning schedule according to the chosen decommissioning option. In executing the decommissioning, this step comprises the removing and dismantling activities of the facilities on the offshore platform. Before the decommissioning procedures can commence, the facilities must be entirely shut down, cleaned of dangerous substances, and declared safe and stable prior to the execution phase. The execution must be carried out in line with the decommissioning plan and in accordance with the DEP. The owner is responsible for the monitoring, maintenance, and administration of the decommissioning site. In the last part, as the decommissioning activities end, a period of observation, monitoring, and reporting are done to ensure the decommissioning program's efficacy. The reporting period and frequency is set accordingly to individual case basis, as to record and evaluate the impacts from operations and also from the remaining structures left in place due to the decommissioning activities. Environmental evaluation is carried out such as surveys and site assessments before proceeding with the report.
Laws and regulations are important to ensure social communities' behavior and to maintain harmony in life cycle and surrounding. Malaysia also imposes laws that are mainly applied in decommissioning oil and gas plants. There are also laws and regulations that are widely applied in Malaysia and other countries too. There are national law and regulation, international conventions or treaties, and state enactment. Other than regulations that are needed to be obeyed, there is also guidelines to ensure the process of decommissioning to work well, as listed below. There is also other guideline principle that is adapted from the Environmental Impact Assessment (EIA). Its objective is to identify, predict, and evaluate the environmental, economic, and social impact, to provide information regarding the environmental consequences, and to promote environmentally sustainable development.
There are 6 factors that influence the asset disposal cost for the permitting and regulatory compliance as shown. To decommission an oil and gas platform, 9 parameters are involved as shown here, which will be discussed further. The project management, engineering and planning phase of the decommissioning process begins 2 to 3 years before production ceases. It involves 4 stages, which are contractual obligations review, engineering analysis, operational planning, and contracting. It usually makes about 8% of the total cost. Platform preparation includes the procedures associated with shutting down and preparing the facility for removal. Level 1 topside inspections and Level 2 underwater inspections are generally conducted to determine the condition of the structure as well to identify any problems for removal. The costs involved for platform preparations are as stated. Plugging and abandoning platform wells is a significant expenditure in decommissioning a project. The complexity of the well determines the difficulty of each plugging and abandonment step, where higher well complexity leads to higher average costs. As shown, there are four main factors influencing the cost estimate for umbilical and cable removal. For every foot depth of water, the cost to remove the umbilical increases. The typical cost for umbilical and cable decommissions ranges from $2 to $10 per foot length. Factors that influence the estimated cost for conductor removal are number of conductors, method of severing, and removal method. As water depth increases, cost of conductor removal also increases as greater lifting are required. It is estimated that it causes $288 per foot for conductor removal. The decommission of a conductor costs from $160,000 to $600,000 per conductor. Number of obstructions per pipeline and the water depth are two main factors that influence the cost to remove pipeline and power cable. The estimated costs rely on data input for three parameters as shown. The cost ranges from $15 to $40 per foot, but is highly variable. To remove platforms, reverse order removal method is used by using DBs of 500 tons and 2,000 tons lifting capabilities. There are three main cost drivers for platform removal as stated. The three most economical approach for platform removal is also shown. Disposal of materials usually are already included in the cost estimate of the removal of other components. The practice to dispose materials may vary according to region, and the materials are usually sold as scraps to maximize any disposal expenses or material salvage profit. Five factors that influence the cost for site clearance are as shown. The typical cost is estimated to be $400,000 and takes about 1% of the total cost.
Next is risk management of asset disposal. There are three main things to highlight for this section. First is the introduction to risk management at oil and gas platform. Decommissioning or disposal of platform is the process of ceasing offshore oil and gas activities at an offshore platform and restoring the ocean and sea floor to its pre-lease state. The Outer Continental Shelf Lands Act (OCSLA) and its implementing rules create decommissioning requirements that an operator must agree to when signing an offshore lease under the OCSLA. The second thing to highlight is type of risk involved in disposing the asset, which is dropped object. It can be happen when an object is not tightened properly to its fitting and the object fall down. There are two types of drops. The first one is static drop, that is falling object without external force. For example, equipment that coming out from their securing points such as cameras and speakers that is due to the lack of maintenance or corrosion. The second type is dynamic drop. It is the falling of object causing from external force. For example, raised working platforms and stairs. Last but not least is how to manage the risk. The application of secondary securing methods is a cornerstone of drop prevention in decommissioning. Wrap them around sensitive objects and secure them to a point of attachment. To surround an object, the best technique is to apply a high-quality steel wire mesh net. Next, apply barriers on walkways, staircases, and high working platforms. These will prevent tools and other items from falling through gaps and becoming drops.
When an asset was at the end of its useful life, the decommissioning process will take place as this is an important step in the world of business. Decommissioning of oil and gas platform is a complicated process that involves engineering, environmental, economics, and social constraints. Any failure during the decommissioning process will greatly affect the environment despite losing millions of dollars. There were three types of law that must be abided during the decommissioning process, which are the national law and regulation, state enactment, and international convention.